Today we're diving into After Us on the PS5, and this platforming adventure game grapples with hefty themes surrounding human impact of sacrifice and hope. The question is, can it provide an experience that effectively embodies these concepts? Well, that's what I'm here to explore. Now, this performance review was penned by Luke, and I'm Alex. I'm here to bring his words to the video. Let's get started. If you enjoyed the video today, consider subscribing, helps out the channel a huge amount, and we're kicking things off with story. And the narrative here, it centers around a young girl called Gaia and her quest to restore the life and beauty of a world ravaged by something known as the Devourers. Now, the game, it opens with a cutscene where we see the last of the animals dying, but in a last-ditch effort, Mother Earth uses the remainder of her life force to save their souls and trap them in vessels. Now it's going to fall to Gaia to head out into the desolate wasteland, track down their final resting place, and free them, returning them once more to the Ark. I enjoyed the storyline. We get a metaphor for the plight of humanity and how we impact the world around us, but I will warn you, it has some very dark undertones and it may weigh just a little too heavy for some. While much of the story is, conveyed through cutscenes and occasional lines of dialogue from Mother, then we also delve into the memories of the Devourers. They were once human too. These recollections add a somber layer to the narrative, but uncovering the complete story from these fragments, it will require a considerable amount of literal soul searching because each area is populated with Devourers to purge. All in all, the story sits as a stark reminder to what could potentially be our future. It is well presented and an interesting one if you can handle that bleak tone. After Us gameplay blends platforming and combat with exploration and puzzle solving, with a notable emphasis on the platforming aspects. Now, the game introduces these elements through an initial tutorial, but do not expect hand-holding throughout the entire game. There were instances when I found myself at a loss, only to stumble upon an entirely new mechanic that hadn't yet been explained. Basically, be ready for some trial and error and experimentation as you do play. So here, the primary objective revolves around recovering souls, of which there are 8 throughout the game. Each soul is situated in the area, reflecting a real-world theme. Think pollution and overfishing for the ocean area, or deforestation in the woods. These areas are considerably fast, but you'll also spend a significant amount of time traversing between them. The progression then within these areas is typically linear, with a single route leading to that spirit. However, the game does offer branching paths, allowing you to tackle them in any order that you may prefer. To ease the burden of extensive back and forth travel as well, the game features a quick travel system that can be unlocked by cleansing oil rigs to create them. However, this game is as much about the journey as it is the destination, because as you navigate through this ravaged landscape, you'll be witnessing the devastation and the hazards that have been created. So as Gaia, carrying with her a heart of light, you can actually cleanse the corruption that you do encounter. Now, to do this, we'll be wielding what's called the light burst ability, and when charged, you can purify corrupted ground and repel enemies. Additionally, she can project her heart, causing it to return to her like a yo-yo, and this technique not only serves as a projectile attack during combat, but it can also be utilized to activate various different environmental features. Now, when it comes to the platforming controls, pretty standard stuff here. We can jump, we can double jump, we can jump higher if we hold the button, we can glide, and then finally we can also perform an air dash. The platforming aspect of the game is quite smooth actually once you become familiar with the mechanics. However, Gaia's jumping can feel somewhat floaty, offering limited control in mid-air. Despite the blue marker that indicates your landing spot as well, the camera angle, coupled with some, let's say, complex geometry, can make it a little tricky to execute jumps accurately. Later in the game as well, you can expect to learn new platforming abilities. Think the ability to wall run. There's going to be swimming sections added into the game. It adds another dimension to the experience. Also then, many of the areas are interconnected by rails that once cleansed, they can be used for grinding and hopping between locations. In conclusion, the platforming offers decent variety, although it does come with its own set of unique, challenges. When it comes to puzzles in this world, then most involve some form of platforming. Generally, you need to figure out how to reach a specific location, whether that's going to be through executing a series of, let's say, wall runs, interacting with spirit trees for a boost, or activating environmental objects to pave your path forward. While these mechanics can make the game feel a bit one-dimensional regarding its puzzles, there are a few standout puzzle mechanics like teleporting between different TV screens. It just adds a nice dash of complexity without having you stuck for too long. The game also strongly encourages exploration, as well as each zone is peppered with glowing orbs containing animal spirits and memories trapped within Devourers. Often these are hidden in hard to reach locations because, of course, but these orbs they can be uncovered by having Gaia sing to release butterflies that guide you towards their location. These are not just mere collectibles either. In fact, I'd consider them essential because these animal spirits, they act as in-world guides. They'll appear before you and they provide hints about hidden entrances, the direction you need to go, and yeah, it proved to be particularly helpful given just how large some of these games' areas are. Without these spirits, it's really easy to lose your bearings, but they just often did enough to nudge me towards my next destination and avoided any sort of, frustration. Now, the last thing I want to talk about is I actually want to circle back to the game's combat because we discussed, the core moveset, but you also have a dodge ability here at your disposal. Enemies, you see, they usually take the form of corrupted humans and they come in a variety of types such as shielded ones, so you'll need to be moving constantly around them for that best line of attack. I actually found the combat encounters mostly enjoyable as well, but they do have some problems because the big one really, you'll often face large groups of enemies and the lack of a lock-on mechanism makes it difficult to target specific enemies. Fortunately, many of the encounters with Devourers, they are optional and you can simply run past them. Overall, my experience with After Us was largely positive. I was captivated by the game's atmosphere, and despite a few issues, I found the platforming and combat mechanics to be robust. My main criticism relates to the game's scale, as some areas seem to drag on just a bit too long, and I would have appreciated more puzzles to kind of balance out the extensive platforming. Despite these minor setbacks, however, After Us is a solid title, and the main game runs for roughly 8 hours with a couple more added if you're aiming to collect all the items. But yeah, if you're a fan of atmospheric platformers, this game is going to be worth considering. In terms of performance, then the game runs relatively smoothly on the PS5. You're given the choice between quality mode, which offers 4K resolution at 30 FPS, and then performance mode, which provides 2K resolution at 60 FPS. I'd recommend the latter personally, as I occasionally encountered minor frame rate issues and instances of the game freezing for a few seconds as it loaded into that next zone. When it comes to the visuals, the developers have done an exceptional job with the environments. Nearly every zone you visit boasts breathtaking views. However, considering the scale of these zones, there are moments when the texture resolution appears a bit lacking and the character models, they just seem slightly dated. Despite these minor issues though, I was truly impressed by the variety of the visuals. I think the themes and the environments are really well positioned to convey the message the developers were aiming to share. The audio experience in After Us then is somewhat minimalistic in terms of sound effects. We're greeted by detailed environmental sounds and some distinct audio for attacks and movement, but it's truly the soundtrack here that stands out. The game employs ambient electronic music to brilliant effect, deftly reflecting both the atmosphere of each area and then Gaia's emotional journey through these desolate environments. The soundtrack though frequently adjusts to mirror the scenario you are in. Think more relaxed, haunting melodic soundscapes to heavy kind of beat-led lines, and all in all, the sound design is exemplary and it's some of the most well thought out audio work I have experienced in a long time. Overall, After Us aims to evoke strong emotions in players and compel them to contemplate their actions' impact on this world. The developers have done an excellent job visually representing the real-world concerns that many of us do share. However, the narrative is far from cheerful and the subject matter can feel quite daunting at times, particularly given, that you will be immersed in it for a solid 8 hours. The game's platforming and combat mechanics are generally robust, and while they come with their own challenges, you eventually do get the hang of them. However, I believe the game could have been enhanced by breaking up the platforming segments and incorporating more of the game's puzzles. It would have just added a bit more depth to the expansive landscapes. The visuals and the audio then kind of wrap up the package, and overall I think as a game, they successfully convey the developers intended a message, and the storyline, it is sure to leave a lasting impression on anyone who plays this game. So overall, After Us, a commendable exploration adventure game, well worth a look. Despite a few minor shortcomings, there's just so much to appreciate. If you've enjoyed games like Journey or the developer's previous title Arise, A Simpler Story, you'll undoubtedly find this game worth a look. So will you be checking out After Us? Let us know in the comments. With that, hit subscribe, join us here for reviews and deals weekly, and I'll see you all on the next video. Thanks everyone.